Whenever we ask how a country is doing or even how the whole world is doing, we tend to look at one big official report card. But what if that report card is only grading us on one subject, and it's completely ignoring some of the most important tests we're facing?
It sounds like a simple question, right? But the answer shapes pretty much everything. Our policies, our priorities, our entire future. And for decades, the main answer has always been just a single number. A number that looks something like this: $25 trillion. This is the gross domestic product, or GDP, for a major economy. It's the grand total of everything produced, from cars to coffees. For the longest time, this has been our ultimate measure of progress. The thinking was pretty simple. A bigger number means more success. But is it really that straightforward? Well, here's the catch. That massive number, it doesn't know the difference between building a brand new hospital and cleaning up a catastrophic oil spill. It doesn't count the value of clean air, fresh water, or a stable climate. It's an incredibly powerful number, but it has a massive, massive blind spot. So, how do we start to fix this? Well, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we're going to dive right into that big economic blind spot. Then, we'll explore the really tricky business of trying to price the priceless. After that, we'll bring people into the equation with the population puzzle. And finally, we'll imagine what a completely new scorecard for planet Earth could look like. All right, first up, why does our standard economic model have such a hard time accounting for nature? The answer, it turns out, lies in something called market failure. To try and fix this, economists have come up with a new idea: green GDP. Just imagine our usual GDP, but this time we actually subtract the costs of pollution, the value of the forests we chop down, and the resources we use up. It's basically an attempt to get a more honest set of books. Okay, so the problem really boils down to a few key issues. First, you've got externalities. These are basically hidden costs that get passed on to someone else. Think about a factory polluting a river. The cost of that pollution, the dead fish or the dirty water, it's not on the factory's balance sheet, it's on ours. Then there are public goods, like a stable climate. Everyone benefits, right? But since no one person owns it, it doesn't get a price tag. Our system is absolutely brilliant at pricing a new laptop, but it's completely failing at pricing a living planet. So if the market is failing us, how in the world do we fix it? Well, that brings us to our second section, and let me tell you, it's a huge challenge. How do you actually put a dollar value on something like a sunset or a clean river? Economists break it down into two big buckets. First, there's use value. That's the easy one. It's the value of timber we get from a forest or the fish we get from the sea. But then there's this other, much more fascinating idea: non-use value. This is the value we get simply from knowing something amazing exists, like the Amazon rainforest, even if we never, ever plan to go there. And this gets to something really powerful within that non-use value. It's called bequest value. It's the moral and even economic importance we place on passing down a healthy planet to our kids and grandkids. It's not really about us, it's all about them. So, how do they actually calculate this stuff? It's not magic. Economists have developed a whole toolkit to figure out these values. They can look at market data, they can calculate how much it would cost to replace a natural service, like water filtration, or they can even use really carefully designed surveys to just ask people directly, hey, what's this forest or this river worth to you? Okay, so here's a really cool, simple example. It's called the travel cost method. To figure out the value of a national park, they add up everything people are willing to spend just to get there and enjoy it. Gas, tickets, hotels, even their time. All that spending is a direct, tangible expression of how much we value that park. But valuing nature is really only half the story. The other side of this whole unseen ledger involves us, the people who actually depend on all those resources. And this brings us to the really complex and, let's be honest, often controversial topic of population. And believe me, this is not a new debate. For over 200 years, we've been arguing back and forth about whether more people automatically means more problems or if it means more progress. This slide lays out the two main camps perfectly. On one side, you've got the classic Malthusian view from way back in the 1700s. See that graph? The idea is that population growth, in red, will always, always outstrip our resources, in blue, and that leads to some kind of crisis. But on the other side, you've got Esther Boserup's 20th century idea that a growing population doesn't lead to collapse, it leads to innovation. Necessity, she basically argued, is the mother of invention. So, to make sense of all this,
modern demographers often use this model to show how populations tend to change over time. As societies develop, they usually move from a state of high birth rates and high death rates to one where both are low. And that, eventually, leads to the population stabilizing.
To really get a handle on these transitions, we track a few key numbers. The total fertility rate, or TFR, kind of predicts where the population is headed. The infant mortality rate is more than just a sad statistic. It's a direct reflection of a nation's overall health and healthcare system. And the age structure, well, that reveals the crucial balance between the young, the working age, and the elderly, which, as you can imagine, has huge economic implications.
And this is where it all comes back to the economy. It turns out that age structure matters immensely. When a country has a big chunk of its population in their working years, with fewer dependents to support, it can unlock what's called a demographic dividend, a special window of opportunity for really rapid economic growth. It just goes to show you, population isn't just about total numbers, it's about structure.
Okay, which brings us to our final section. We've seen the serious flaws in our old scorecard. We've explored how we might value nature and how we can understand population dynamics. So, what comes next? If you look back, our whole idea of progress has been a moving target for centuries. It started with Malthus worrying about resources, then moved to the invention of GDP during the Great Depression, and then to the rise of green accounting in the 90s. The journey today is all about bringing these different pieces together. And that's the ultimate takeaway here. A single number that only focuses on economic output just isn't going to cut it anymore. A true, meaningful scorecard for the 21st century has to balance our economy against the health of our planet and the well-being of our people. They aren't separate accounts. They are all part of one single interconnected ledger. So that really just leaves us with one final thought, one question for you. We're all stakeholders on this planet, right? If you were in charge of creating this new, more complete report card for our world, what metrics would you choose to measure our collective success?